in baseball, like before hitters go up to bat, there's a weighted, like they put weights around their bat, so they swing the bat, and then when they go up to bat, it feels lighter, right? So they're practicing with weights, it feels heavy, and then when they get up to bat, it's much lighter. And I always like to think of it like that. When you have a really tough day or week or a few weeks or a month, whatever it might be, imagine that as your weighted bat, right? This is going to be really hard this time, but as soon as that time is over, it's going to feel so much easier. You're going to be swinging the bat without the weights around it. And I just think that makes the challenges almost fun in a way. And again, you commit to one or two things that are doable and realistic. Not, when I go away, I'm not, exercising for as long as I usually do. That's just not realistic, and that's okay. And the idea is being okay, being less than perfect or ideal or whatever it is.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like I was super excited for the school year to end. Like, yes, please, hallelujah. And I think a lot of you out there can agree. We were all ready for the school year to end if you have children. And perhaps if you don't have children, you were just excited for summer because summer means vacations and fun times. And so today we want to talk about, though, shifting some perspective, because I think there's a lot of deluding ourselves into thinking that the next season is going to be the season, right? Like it's going to be the season where things slow down, or it'll be the season where I relax, or it'll get easier, right, Adam?
Yes, all this wonderful stuff can equate to lots of challenges and lots of potential rationalizations to delay action.
Right. So what we want to offer you out there watching is shift your perspective. Okay, so that's the key action here. And the perspective is make challenging times work for you, not against you, right?
Yes.
So here's where the inspiration came for this. I have a client who I've been working closely with who's got a pretty challenging summer ahead for her. And she said to me the other day, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. I don't know how I'm going to cope with this challenge. And I said, well, we don't have to know yet. You just have to decide who you're going to be a month after it's over, right? She's got a pretty challenging summer ahead of her. And I said, so I want you to sit down and I want you to write the story of who you are 1 month after this challenging stretch is over. And that helped to inform us, and it's helping us understand what steps she needs to take as she navigates this challenging time. And here's the deal. Adam, I think so many of us assume that if we just hold on, right? If we just sit in the back seat and tuck our heads and close our eyes, somehow miraculously we're going to make it to the end and we're going to be okay, and get through unscathed. But the truth is that challenging times, no matter what, change us. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I totally agree, because if we don't have a plan, if we're not intentional, they're going to change us. The question is, do they change us for the better or for the worse? Do they revert us back to where we may have been and we've worked so hard to get to? Or do they improve us so that, every day, weeks and months and times when that aren't as challenging seem even easier?
Right. So yeah, so the truth is we're always changing. I tell my clients this all the time. I'm like, you are going to change whether you're in the back seat or you're behind the wheel. And so I really challenge people, get behind the wheel, drive the change, be intentional about how you want to change and who you're going to be when you come through this. And this can apply to like a summer long challenge, or, like a business trip, or heck, even a day at home with the kids. Cause I don't know about you guys, but I work from home and my children are home during the summer. I love them to pieces, but there are days when I think, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this and not be a monster at the end of the day. I don't want to be a monster at the end of the day. So I try very hard to set an intention about who am I going to be at the end of the day. Like if I were looking at me through my kids' eyes, who would they see? Right? And that doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I'm guilty of losing my cool from time to time, but I try to set things up so that intentionally I come to the end of the day and maybe I'm not momster. So I don't know. Adam, do you have experiences like that?
Yeah, totally. And I just want to touch on, like, I think the first perspective shift is choosing to be in the driver's seat, because I think so often when we have a challenge, when we have a vacation coming up, when we have time off, the first thing we typically want to do is, I don't want to drive. I'm just going to punt this until later on. Right. And just the fact of, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to choose to drive this time around. That in itself is progress. It really is.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, that happens and you've not even left for vacation and you've already made progress, right?
Right. Because you're choosing this time, you're still going to be in control. And you're saying, you know what, even though things aren't going to be perfect, even though I'm not going to have my usual routine, everything is the way I like it, I'm still choosing to drive. Because if you don't drive, someone else is going to drive for you, kind of as we said, or it's just going to be driven, and then ultimately you're going to end up, where you don't want to be, and revert back.
Right. Right. I like that. So the perspective shift does really have to take place before the challenging moment. And I actually just had another client who went on this fantastic yoga retreat that she led along with one other person. And we really talked about that before she left. We were like, okay, let's talk about the one or two things you're really going to drive home through this trip that are going to impact who you're going to be and how you're going to feel when you get home afterward. And she had to be really clear about what she wanted to look back and reflect on, right? Like who she wanted to see that she was during that trip. So what would you say is step number 2?
I think step number 2 is deciding what things you're going to choose to focus on. So for me, movement is a big part of my life, and I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist and this kind of all or nothing person. And in the past, if we were traveling or if we were doing something, it would be like, all right, no movement, and I'm just going to kind of eat whatever I want because I can't eat quote unquote perfectly, right? And I've done a lot of work to say, you know what, some movement every day makes me feel better. It makes me more energized. It makes me happier. And just because I can't eat exactly the way I want, or I'm not at home and have access to exactly what I want, it doesn't mean I still can't choose good choices, right? When possible, when I want to. So those are the 2 big things for me is, choosing when I'm going to move, how I'm going to move. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the gym. It could just be going for a walk. It could be swimming. It could be going in the ocean. And then saying also, like, well, just because I don't have access to my kitchen doesn't mean I need to, order anything and everything on the menu. Like, let's pick and choose, and again, choose to drive, because ultimately I'm going to feel better doing that.
Yeah. And I think it was really important that you identified you're not picking all the things.
No.
You're picking 1 or 2 things to focus on.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to jump in and say number 3 piece is to get through the stressful period, or the fun, but it's stressful because you're, out of your routine, and then reflect back, right? Like it's really important to take that time and look back and say, hey, what worked, what didn't? Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure.
And actually I had a talk with that client who did the yoga retreat, and we did just that today. We sort of had like a reflection call, and we talked about all the amazing progress she made. And we did just what you said. We picked like 2 things for her to focus on while she was away. She was busy, and she led, I don't know how many people there were in the group. She was in a new place. She was responsible for cooking all their meals.
Wow.
And like leading all the activities. I was like, I don't know how you're still alive on this side of things, So she did so well. But there were things she was like, I wish I had done better. I said, listen, you don't yoga retreat all the time. I mean, it would be nice if it was your full-time job, but it's not. So we're only going to get to practice yoga retreats when you're on a yoga retreat. So let's talk about like what went well, and what this is going to now give us information about what we're going to practice the next time.
Yeah. And for me, if you're unsure what to pick, to me, it's like, what are the 1 or 2 things that when you do those help you do everything else you like to do better? And yes, I guess movement and nutrition is kind of, paramount to what we do, but it really does help me do everything else better. It helps me be more patient with my kids. It helps me be more energized, so I, could be more present. It helps me do everything else that is important to me. And those are kind of the 2 Archimedes levers, so to speak, where when I get those 2 things done, they help me do everything else.
Yeah, definitely. So I think just, overall, if I had to say like one big thing is also like don't don't neglect to use challenging times to your advantage. Right? Like you should know this, Adam. Robert Ory. Do you know who Robert Ory is?
Basketball player?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the Houston Rockets?
Yeah.
All right, so I grew up watching the Rockets. Wasn't he the one that used to always say pressure either busts pipes or makes diamonds?
I don't know if he said that, but I love it. It's true.
I feel like he did. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a it's a great quote. And let's take advantage of the days that we might call stressful, whether it's actually like a stressful work day because you have a lot to get done, or your kids are driving you bananas, or shoot, you're packing up the car to go camping and it's supposed to rain for 4 days.
Sound like you're speaking from experience.
Yeah, just happens. Anyway, let's choose to work on making diamonds, right? Like that's what I say. That's my send home message. Like don't let those days where you want to just like hang your head and hide go by without like lifting your head and saying, where's the diamond in this rough?
Yeah. Exactly. Choosing to drive, like that in itself is major progress. For me, it's like, well, if I go to a hotel and they don't have a gym I like or that I'm used to, it's like, all right, well, how can I reframe that to a positive? All right, well, you know what? Maybe these few days or this week, I'm going to do all sorts of exercises I never do, and I'll make it a plus, right? And work muscles I don't usually work. And that is so important because we're so many of us are just like, well, if the coast isn't clear, if there's something on the horizon, then just forget it. We turn down the effort dial, which I always talk about. But like the best thing you can do during challenging times is turn it down, not turn it off. And that in itself is such progress. And to your point, it's like, I was, in baseball, like before hitters go up to bat, there's a weighted, they put weights around their bat, so they swing the bat. And then when they go up to bat, it feels lighter, right? So they're practicing with weights, it feels heavy. And then when they get up to bat, it's much lighter. And I always like to think of it like that. When you have a really tough day or week or a few weeks or a month, whatever it might be, imagine that as your weighted bat, right? This is going to be really hard this time, but as soon as that time is over, it's going to feel so much easier. You're going to be swinging the bat without the weights around it. And I just think that makes the challenges almost fun in a way. And again, you commit to one or two things that are doable and realistic. Not, when I go away, I'm not, exercising for as long as I usually do. That's just not realistic, and that's okay. And the idea is being okay, being less than perfect or ideal or whatever it is. We're excited for you guys this summer to enjoy your vacations, to enjoy your travels, and to enjoy your challenges.
Yeah. Don't let them slip by. No missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Seize the challenge. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for you this week, and we will see you soon. Take care.